Glamour is everything for Final Fantasy XIV, at least it is to me. And the reason I say that is because the customization of your own character really brings it to life. Yeah, we've only got 4 face options. We only have a few hairstyles that look good in our own, particular tastes. It's very easy to look very similar, right? But one of the things that stands out is glamour and the combination of items and how you can color them. So one of the biggest things for me that we got announced in the Fan Festival for Las Vegas for patch 7.0, also known as the expansion, bringing Dawntrail to our eyes. This has to be the best slide ever. Basically, they're updating the dye system. Currently in the game, we can only dye a piece of gear or a housing item. We should talk about that as well, since that's included. You can only dye a piece of gear one color, right? And more often than not, you get something that has a pattern on it. For example, this particular headset here. And if you choose a dye, you've got basically the fabric dyeing the majority of the color. This is how it usually sits, right? The main go-to is the main piece of fabric gets the majority of the color, and then the rest of it either gets washed out variations of that color or a completely different color that you can't change. And that's fundamentally true across the board, especially for chess pieces. This is one of the latest chess pieces added to the game that actually came from Mount Rokon, from the potsherds. This chess piece is beautiful, but how cool would it be if we could change the color of these phoenixes, these Suzakus that are on here as well, or this undershirt, right? More often than not. Do I really want a gray undershirt? Well, I don't have a choice, because whatever color I choose, that's going to remain there. Well, this is a thing of the past in the next expansion, my friends, because we are unlocking 2 dyes per gear piece. So as much as I understand this to mean that we still don't get a choice of which bit we actually get to choose to dye, it means that things like this will be a thing of the past. So, for example, on a more common piece of gear that you might see, we have this, which was the latest PvP armor. This is absolutely fantastic. This is in metallic brass. But the problem with this outfit is that you can't get away from the white coloration of the fabric. Let's say I wanted to have a brass and a black color, right? Those are the 2 most prominent colors. There's a good chance with those 2 dye options, I will be able to change both of them. This is a huge thing. I was like screaming from the top of my lungs when this was first announced. I cannot wait to see what happens. Think of all the weapons that you'll be able to change as well. Things that dye awfully, right? Things that have been in the game for a very long time that, you would like to change. So it's going to apply to the majority of items. They're saying 7.0 items are a given, and then they're going to work their way backwards. So don't expect this to be, on every piece of gear in the video game as soon as the expansion comes out. But there is a good likelihood that the most popular items, or more popular items used by players, will have that option. And you can bet your bottom dollar that it's going to include the cash shop items as well, considering how important it will be to have the most flashy stuff accessible, to a paid option. And the event items as well. Some of the more recent things will probably be changed, I think, more than anything. When it comes to housing items, a great example of this, when I was talking about the keynote earlier, is with furniture. For example, these seats here. If I wanted to change the color of both the embroidery or the wood, for example, and the cushions, that's not a thing. I can only change the color of the cushions and the embroidery stays gold. But what if I could change that to, I don't know, yellow, or let's say we reverse the colors. We have black embroidery and a gold chair. Well, that's something you should technically be able to do in 7.x. I'm super excited for that. But more on top of that, they decided to do some other changes. So with fashion accessories, recently, we've had a lot more glasses added to the game. Recent ones include the rose-colored spectacles. The thing that makes the fashion accessories so exciting to a lot of people is the fact that you're able to use headwear, if you're a character that can use headwear, as well as using these eyeglasses. This is fantastic, but once we start queuing into duties, no matter what it is, outside of the open world, these disappear. You cannot use fashion accessories in a duty. So the way that they've got around this, once again on that wonderful slide, is that eyeglasses have now been added in 7.x as a way of, it's basically stored as another equipment slot. So when we look at equipment slots, we should presumably have another slot added to this list. Remember when we removed belts from the game, we gained accessory slot inventory space and stuff like that. Basically what they said as well, to alleviate the concerns we might have with the amount of space that we already, you know, struggle with on a daily basis, is that physical item space will not be taken up, you know, memory space will not be taken up by the physical eyeglasses themselves. So you can imagine this very similar to a glamour plate system, right? So these items are not in my inventory, they are stored elsewhere, but I can still apply them whenever I want to in a sanctuary place, right? So the same principle applies, and I'm really excited to be able to wear glasses in combat. Some people, you know, want to have their character looking studious, either for RP or just for their character design. Again, as we talked at the start of the video, glamour is everything, and this is going to add a whole new range of looks and customizations. You combine this with the multiple dye palettes, top 10, honestly. This is one of the best things they could have announced, and I honestly, in comparison to the rest of the things, albeit they were fantastic announcements and I'm looking forward to the expansion and where we're going and the new job, this was the thing that made me the most excited. The other thing as well, whilst we're in a house, planned for 7.x, so not at the launch of the expansion, is the increase to placement. So more often than not, when we do videos on things, it's very difficult to actually fill a house, if that makes sense, properly. So the placement of indoors items, as you can see, we're up to 400 possible places. Now that sounds a lot in a large, and obviously smalls and mediums are a lot worse, but once you've started to like actually, you know, furnish a house out properly, the most you can probably get is the basement and the mid floor. It's a big space, right? But the upstairs gets heavily neglected, as you can see. I mean, we've massively neglected this. We've done the best we physically can, but you can't physically place that many more items to make it look exciting. So a lot of people end up boarding up their upstairs, especially in mediums, or they get rid of their basement deliberately out of choice. Especially glaring is the outdoors placement as well. 40 slots for a large is terrible. Like there's very little you can do with that. This is at basically, yeah, 39 out of 40. I use this for videos, but to make something look good, not saying that this looks good, which it really doesn't in comparison to some people's works of art, it is very difficult to make work. But yeah, those are some of the things I'm most excited for, and they all happen to have been on one slide, which yeah. But yeah, that's not to say I'm not excited for the rest of the expansion, but boy oh boy, this made me happy, and I hope you're happy too. And if you didn't know about these changes, now you do. Awesome sauce. Can't wait for next year. It's going to be incredible. Much love, more news on the way, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.